Have you ever looked at a patch of dirt and wondered what was really going on in there? It's a simple question, but it can lead to a fascinating little experiment. All you need is a clear glass jar with a tight lid and some ordinary dirt from your backyard or a nearby park. People are drawn to this idea because it feels like creating a tiny, self-contained world. It's a miniature version of our own planet, sealed off from everything else. We see elaborate terrariums online, with lush plants and tiny creatures, and we might wonder, what happens if you start with just the most basic ingredient? What secrets can a simple jar of dirt reveal to us? The curiosity behind this experiment is powerful. It taps into our innate desire to understand the world around us, one small piece at a time. We are, in a sense, playing the role of a scientist observing a new, unknown environment. By sealing the jar, we create a closed system. Nothing new can get in, and nothing can get out. This isolation is the key to the entire experiment. It allows us to watch how the components already inside the dirt interact with each other over time, without any outside interference. It's a test of potential. We're asking the dirt, what can you do all by yourself? The anticipation of what might happen, or what might not, is what makes this simple project so compelling. Setting up this tiny world is incredibly easy, which is part of its charm. You just scoop some soil into the jar, making sure not to pack it down too tightly. You want to capture a sample that is as natural as possible, with all its hidden bits and pieces. Once the lid is screwed on, the observation begins. At first, it just looks like, well, a jar of dirt. It might seem a bit anticlimactic, but this is where patience becomes your most important tool. The changes that occur are often slow and subtle, unfolding over days, weeks, or even months. It's a quiet, patient form of discovery, where you learn to notice the smallest details. This experiment is not about creating a beautiful, thriving ecosystem. Instead, it's about understanding the fundamental nature of soil and the conditions necessary for life. By starting with only dirt, we establish a baseline. We get to see what soil is capable of on its own, before we add seeds, water, or plants. It's a lesson in what's missing. What ingredients are required to turn this jar of inert-looking brown stuff into a vibrant, living terrarium? This question is at the heart of our exploration. The sealed jar of dirt becomes a silent teacher, showing us the building blocks of nature and the magic that happens when all the right pieces come together. So, what exactly is this stuff we call dirt or soil? It's so much more than just brown, dusty particles. Think of it as a complex and bustling community. Soil is a mixture of tiny, broken-down pieces of rock and minerals, which give it its gritty texture. But mixed in with that is something incredibly important: organic matter. This is the good stuff. It's made of decomposed leaves, dead roots, and the remains of countless tiny organisms that once lived in the soil. This organic material is what makes soil dark and rich. And it holds the nutrients that future plants would need to grow. It's a history book of everything that has lived and died in that spot. When you scoop that dirt into your jar, you're capturing more than just minerals and old leaves. You are trapping a microscopic universe teeming with life. Soil is home to billions of bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms in every single spoonful. These tiny life forms are the planet's great recyclers. They work constantly to break down organic matter, turning it into simpler substances. You can't see them with your naked eye, but they are there. A hidden workforce continuing their daily jobs inside your sealed jar. They are the reason a forest floor doesn't pile up to the sky with dead leaves. They are nature's cleanup crew. Besides the microscopic life, your scoop of dirt might contain other, slightly larger things. You might have captured tiny dormant seeds, just waiting for the right conditions to sprout. There could be insect eggs, or even very small invertebrates like mites or springtails, scurrying around in the soil pores. Each shovelful is a lottery. You never know exactly what combination of living and non-living things you've sealed inside. This mix of rock, decaying matter, and a diverse community of seen and unseen organisms is what makes soil a living, breathing entity. It's not just a substrate, it's a habitat in its own right. Understanding this complex composition is key to predicting what might happen inside the jar. The minerals provide structure, but the organic matter and the microorganisms are the active ingredients. They are the engines of change. The amount of water already in the soil, the number of dormant seeds, and the types of bacteria present will all influence the journey your tiny world will take. Far from being a boring container of brown dust, your jar is now a sealed laboratory containing a rich, complicated, and wonderfully messy slice of the natural world. poised for a slow and quiet transformation. Once the lid is on, the jar becomes its own little biosphere, and the first thing you'll likely notice is moisture. Even if the dirt felt relatively dry, there's almost always some water trapped within it. As the temperature in the room changes, this water will begin to move. During the day, or if the jar is in a warm spot, water will evaporate from the soil, and you'll see it condense on the cooler glass sides. It looks like a fine mist, or even small droplets of water. At night, as the jar cools, that water might drip back down onto the soil. You've just created a miniature water cycle, a fundamental process for all life on Earth. Over the first few days and weeks, you might also notice a change in the smell, if you were to ever open it, but don't. The microorganisms trapped inside are hard at work. The bacteria and fungi begin to consume the available oxygen and break down the organic matter in the soil. This process of decomposition can release gases, which might create a distinctly earthy or musty aroma. It's the smell of a damp forest floor after a rain, concentrated in your jar. The color of the soil might also shift slightly, perhaps becoming darker in areas where moisture gathers, or showing patches of fuzzy white mold as fungi find a pocket of air and a tasty bit of decaying wood to feast on. However, one of the most important observations is what does not happen. While you might see some faint mold growth here and there, you almost certainly won't see a forest of plants magically sprout from the soil. Even if there were dormant seeds in your dirt sample, the conditions inside the jar are not ideal for germination. There is no new influx of air, so the carbon dioxide levels will likely rise as the microorganisms respire. Without the process of photosynthesis from growing plants to replenish the oxygen, the air inside becomes stale and unbalanced for complex life. The tiny world slowly runs out of the resources needed for big changes. This lack of dramatic growth is, in itself, a fascinating result. The jar of dirt doesn't turn into a lush terrarium, because key elements are missing. There is no sustainable light source for photosynthesis, no fresh air, and no large-scale system for nutrient cycling. The initial flurry of microbial activity will slow down, as the most easily accessible food and oxygen are used up. The jar will then enter a state of stasis, a quiet equilibrium. The water will continue its cycle of condensation and evaporation, and the soil will sit there, a silent testament to the fact that life requires more than just a handful of dirt and a little water. What does this seemingly uneventful experiment teach us? It provides a profound lesson about the complexity and interconnectedness of ecosystems. Our jar of dirt shows us that soil is not just a stage for life to happen on, it is an active participant. It holds water, contains nutrients, and hosts a universe of decomposers. But on its own, sealed off from the rest of the world, its potential is limited. It highlights that for a vibrant ecosystem to thrive, there needs to be a constant exchange of energy and matter. The jar lacks the single most important energy source for our planet: the sun. Without sunlight, there is no photosynthesis, the process that powers nearly all life. The experiment also serves as a powerful illustration of closed systems. Our planet, Earth, is essentially a very large, complex version of our sealed jar. While we get a constant supply of energy from the sun, the material resources on our planet are finite. The water, minerals, and air we have are all we've got. The jar demonstrates on a small scale what happens when resources are used up and not replenished. The initial burst of microbial activity slows as oxygen is depleted. It's a simple but stark reminder of the importance of balance. In nature, plants and animals have evolved together in a beautiful symbiosis, where the waste of one organism becomes the food for another. One of the surprising results is often just how long the miniature water cycle can continue. For months, or even years, you can watch the condensation come and go with the daily temperature changes. This simple physical process persists long after the biological activity is quieted down. It's a beautiful visual representation of the physical laws that govern our world, operating independently of life itself. It shows that even in a seemingly dead environment, there are still forces at play, a constant, subtle dance of molecules. This quiet persistence can be surprisingly mesmerizing to observe over a long period. In conclusion, the sealed jar of dirt is more of an empty forest than a tiny one. It's a lesson in absence. It teaches us to appreciate not just the soil, but the sunlight, the fresh air, the rain, and the vast web of life that soil supports. It shows us that to build a world, you need all the pieces of the puzzle. The dirt is a critical foundation, rich with potential, but it cannot create a thriving ecosystem on its own. This humble experiment, with its quiet and subtle changes, gives us a deeper respect for the delicate balance that allows the vibrant, green world outside our windows to flourish.